Well, hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel, Gospel Simplicity, a place where we are passionate about the beautiful simplicity and transformative power of the gospel, the good news about Jesus. We're out to talk about life, Jesus, and the journey of faith in a real, honest, and open way. So if that all interests you and you haven't already subscribed, I'd really encourage you to do so down below to become a part of what we're doing here on this channel. Well, guys, today we're going to kick off a new series, and it's one I'm excited about. And it's one I've thought about for a while. You know, I like to plan my series out, get different topics just stirring in my mind. And this one's been on my mind for a while, and I've been pushing it off because I just feel a little inadequate for it. And I know I said that about the last series, so maybe that's just a theme I've got going on. But I want to talk to you guys about prayer. And it's such a huge topic, and so I began this list, and I'm trying to make a sensible way of organizing it and systematizing it because that's what my brain likes to do. And I realized, maybe that's actually part of the problem, is that that's what we try to do with prayer too. We try to create this perfect little system for it and make it work and make this formula that, like, boom, then we can have effective prayers. And so I decided, okay, we're going to do away with that systematized list. And these videos are going to be a little disconnected from one another, and I think that's okay, because I want it to reflect the organic nature of prayer. That prayer isn't just this like one size fits all, there's this one way to do it. And so some of these videos are gonna be one after another, and then I might come back to it a little later with one on a similar thing. But anyway, there's so much that we could talk about prayer that it'll probably go on for a while, but we'll give it a break. We'll come back. I'm excited about it because I think prayer is one of the most fundamental aspects of Christian life, and it's so easy to overlook it. And it's so easy to, frankly, just have this guilt that, like, we should be praying more, but we don't do it as much as we should, or we just don't really get it, and we feel awkward when we do it. That's okay. If you feel any of those things, this is for you. And so this first video, I want to talk about just one of the tensions in prayer that we can experience, because, oftentimes you'll be told, what is prayer? How do you pray? Just talk to God. And it's like, okay, but how do we talk to God? How do we address God? And when I see people do it, I see two extremes. And I think, as is often the case, the truth isn't on one end of the extreme or the other, but it's somewhere in that tension. It's somewhere in the middle, and we find this all the time with truths that relate to the Bible. There's like these competing ideas that kind of have this tension, and we find the truth in the middle. And so what happens when it comes to prayer is that I see people on one hand go way on like the fear of God, reverence of God's side, and then on the other hand I see people go way casual with it. Some people might just be like, yo, like, what's up, God? And then other people might be like trembling as they pray. And so where should we be? Is it one side? Is it the other? Maybe you relate to one more than the other. But I think there's a balance. And I think actually Jesus demonstrates this in the most famous prayer of all time, the Lord's Prayer. Many of you probably grew up praying this, or you've heard it. Even if you didn't grow up in church, you've probably heard, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And even in just those two opening lines, they're actually kind of like these parallels if you look at it. There's a really important truth communicated there. That it's not one or the other, but it's both and. Do you see? The very opening of the Lord's Prayer is bold and audacious. And we can take it for granted because we've grown up with it. But addressing God as our Father. This concept of God as a father was used occasionally in the Old Testament. Like, it was referenced just a couple times, but Jesus really just brings up the volume on that metaphor, and he really just introduces that as the primary way of relating to God. And so when his disciples come to him in Luke 11 and they say, Jesus, teach us to pray, which maybe that's where you're at, you're like, hey, I don't know how to pray. How do we pray? And Jesus responds by saying, Our Father. That's how he starts it off. That's powerful. God is inviting you to relate to him as your Father. In other places we see in Romans 8 that Paul tells us, actually, he uses the word Abba. That he says, because we have been adopted by God, that we are heirs with Christ, we have been adopted and treated as sons. then we can call God Abba, Father, which is an Aramaic word, Abba, which is like the word that an infant would use to relate to their dad. It's like this very intimate connection, and that's what we are invited into. And it's no wonder in 1 John we see, what great love the Father has lavished upon us, that he has given us the right to be called children of God. That should blow our minds, and so we should not forsake that privilege and just to act like God is so distant from us that we can't even speak to him. But Jesus invites us to say, our Father. It's an intimate relationship that we're invited into, and a prayer should reflect that intimate connection we have with God as a child of his. But then he follows that up. Lest we should go too far on one extreme and be unbalanced, he says, hallowed be thy name, which you probably never say the word hallowed, but it just sounds nice in the prayer. But other versions would translate that like, may your name be given honor, or may your name be glorified, or may we honor your name. And so it's these two things, and they exist together. It's our Father and hallowed be thy name. We relate to God as both our Father, as both child, and both as God as creator and ruler and judge of the cosmos. Both are true at the same time. We need to recognize both of those. And I think just the example Jesus gives there is so powerful. Our Father, hallowed be thy name. We need to recognize those tensions. A professor of mine talks about this, and he likes to use a picture of John F. Kennedy Jr. in his father's office, and he's playing under JFK's desk, and he's peeking out. You can look it up. It's a really famous picture online. And it's this beautiful picture of it's a metaphor, so don't take it too far, but like we are sons, and in the Oval Office we are invited into the throne room of God, and to the most powerful man, not just in the country, like the most powerful man in the world that they call the president, but the most powerful being in the cosmos who gives us very breath. He invites us in as child where no one else could be. We are invited in so just easily there. But yet at the same time, he is still God. And so there's still this reverence we have for him. Like the fear of the Lord is still a real thing. And if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to make a video on that. Like, what does that mean? But like, we recognize that God is an all-consuming fire, as it says in Hebrews. Like, God is so totally holy. We are so truly unworthy to be in his presence, yet we're invited in. So we don't say, God, like, I'm going to make light of that invitation and act like you didn't give it to us. Like, I don't think that's doing justice to what God has done for us. But to say, like, that we're not going to relate to him as Father, because that is what he desires. But at the same time, there should be no mistake that God is still God, still ruler and creator, and ultimately the one in control. Like, balance those two. And this might sound like a lot, and I hope I'm not trying to make prayer more complicated. I just want to kind of give you food for thought. Like, both of these are true. God is our Father who cares about you, who died for you. In the parable of the prodigal son, he shows that no matter how far we run, that he is still there for us, that God, he loves us intimately. But let's still have that respect for God. And I think when we have both, it should lead us into growing in both areas. When we see that God invites us to see him as Father, we realize that he even more so deserves to be glorified because he is just so purely good. And when we see just the goodness of God and we see his glory, it should make us just revel in the fact that we get to call him Father. So in your prayer life, try to address both of these and try to cultivate a prayer life that really does justice to both. I hope that helps you. I hope it just brings new vitality to your prayer life. I'm really excited for this series on prayer. I hope it will help you just use this spiritual discipline to grow and to realize that like prayer should be our first response to all of life. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really, really appreciate it so much. It means the world to me. I am genuinely grateful for you guys. So if you enjoyed this video, please click like, leave me a comment down below letting me know what you thought. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And as always, if you have not already, be sure to hit subscribe down below to become a part of what we're doing here on this channel. But until next time, guys, be sure to go out and love God and love others, because that will change the world. Peace. Love you guys so much. See you next time.